having us, everyone. My name's Dana. This is Shadia, and that's Tara waiting right there. Raise your hand, Tara, waiting to sell you welcome shirts. We're really excited to be here, and we would have loved to have you to our space, and we do welcome you to stop by afterwards if you don't have to rush back to work. But we're really thankful to be here to meet more of you this morning. Here's the thing, I always want to fit into the creatives crowd, but I always don't feel like I can quite make it. And what gives me away in this situation is that I didn't even know what Creative Mornings was until they reached out to us. And I didn't know what a great crowd comes until some of our great designers that have done work with us are like, man, that's so great that you're doing that thing. We hope we can get on the waiting list. I'm like, oh, I better get ready. And just for a show of hands, if you have had any part in pushing the mission of Treetops forward in this room, could you just raise your hand? Because we actually have a really great group of designers. I see Amar. You guys should stand up there. Yeah, can you stand up? Where's Bill and Kate? Are they taking care of their babies somewhere? Oh, they're right here. Bill and Kate have been a part of this as well. Christian, did you? Christian, there you go. Small hand in the back. There's a good crowd in here, and we're grateful for you. So since I didn't know much about you, I visited the Creative Mornings site, and I'm sure you constantly revisit your manifesto, but if you haven't, I'm going to read it for you quickly because I like it. This is how it goes. Everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We are here to support you, celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections and learning from others and hugs and high fives. We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome. So, everyone is creative, everyone is welcome. Those are your first and last statements of your manifesto, and they might as well be ours. Treetops Collective is just this radical notion that refugees are not just pawns of politics. They're not people that you can just put in these two simple boxes of either being a villain or a victim. It's just this idea that refugees are just people, and they're creative people. They have gifts and skills, and yes, they are victims of having to go through this horrific experience and having to be forced from the home that they love, but they're still just people with gifts, and they want to contribute to their community. And that's why we exist. So we started with a lot of questions, like how can the world do a better job welcoming refugees than what we've seen? And how can we answer this question in our own community? And sure, families receive really important necessities when they arrive from resettlement agencies, like their first home, their first job quite often, their kids get into school. But our question is, how do you actually go about rebuilding that community that we all depend on other than those basic necessities? And most nonprofits that we know of are born out of needs, like what are the needs and how do we fill them? But we wanted to ask, but what are the gifts that people are bringing with them to our city, and how can we connect them to our wonderful city so that all of us can flourish? So we're one part social enterprise and one part community development, and we're brand new. We just started in May of last year and opened our doors in July. But we have a lovely little maker space on South Division, just south of Franklin. If you ever want to visit, let us know. We have two small sewing businesses there who just happen to be hiring refugee women. It's also a space where we can host creative nights and cross-cultural opportunities for people to get to know each other. And our goal in 2017 is also to launch a product line that will be contracting with those small businesses to keep them busy and creating jobs for people to use the gifts that they're coming with. But hopefully, if we can figure out what we're doing, using any net profits to fund our community work. So our community development side is mostly focused on what we call sister circles. So we have, picture like some Venn diagrams, if you will, 3 circles. But one is refugee girls who meet monthly, and it's a way that they can support each other in ways that we just can't because they get each other. I mean, first of all, they're 15 and I'm not, so they can support each other that way. But it's also a way that they're going through some of the same things and are able to relate to each other and encourage one another, but it's also an opportunity for us to focus on leadership development initiatives. And then there's a refugee women's circle that Shadia and I started with this fall, and it was rather hit or miss. when people were coming. But when they did come, they were saying, you know what we really need is to learn English, because life is going to be better when we can really nail this language thing. So that really gave birth to Sister Circles, the cross-cultural one. And that's where we pair a refugee woman or refugee girl up with a non-refugee woman. And they sign a little piece of paper that says they'll meet for the next 6 months for about 4 hours a month. And although the main focus of this is English language learning, the real posture of it is getting to know our new sisters in town, listening to their definition of success, and becoming their ally and reaching their goals. So here's the thing. Those of us at Treetops will count ourselves among you, even if we can't master MailChimp or master our product photography, and we're not really good at that stuff, because we do fit into the rest of your manifesto. We're a group of people that are driven by passion and purpose, and we do firmly believe that change really starts in our little neighborhood of South Division, and that's where we're starting from. And we also think that for as much as the world has charged ahead in creativity in the business world, it's really lacking in other areas of our world, like forced migration and refugees, and we really do want to approach our work with a lot of creativity. It's one of our values. So next, I'd like to thank Shadia for being here, because alongside of being a board member, she also has like 3 different jobs, and worked until 10 o'clock last night and has to go to work after this, and there's a board meeting at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. She also has a parents meeting with students at some point tomorrow morning. And also, it's just kind of a vulnerable time just to be speaking up as a refugee, and as a Muslim refugee, and as a woman in this particular time we find ourselves in. So I'm just really grateful she can be here and share our story. So I first met Shadia. We met each other the day she arrived in Grand Rapids around a little table at a Lutheran church, which is its own story in itself. But we just became really quick friends, and I really resonated with her and connected with her on a lot of levels. We have similar educational backgrounds, and I think we were kind of asking some of the questions about what we were seeing in our community, but also what our part was and what we were supposed to do about what we were seeing. And I did kind of feel like she was a sister right away, even though we come from very different places, different life experiences, different religions, but she just has a sense of wisdom, and that's why, that I've always respected, and that's why she was the very first board member of Treetops Collective. So I'm going to ask some questions to Shadia now, which we have not talked about until this morning, just so you know, so it's not rehearsed. And hopefully there will be some time for you guys to ask any questions of us if you have them. So, Shadia Mbabazi, welcome.
Thank you for having me here.
Can you all hear us? Okay, great. Okay. Tell me about your story of coming to the United States.
Well, that's an interesting one, and boy, it took a long time. Coming to the U.S. is not an easy thing, especially for like if you're a refugee in the camp, and it's a long process that it could take 10 years or more than that. So coming here, we waited for like 13 years for me and my family. We went through different processes of screening, and during that time we lived as refugees in Botswana, and that's where we went to school, and we lived there while waiting to come, because as a refugee you don't belong to any country, and if you're living in Botswana as a refugee you don't have any status. So being resettled to a third country, it gives you a chance to belong or to have status, because when you leave your country, all that is lost in the whole process. Mm-hmm. So coming here is a chance for like a person to get status and belong to a country, because as a refugee you no longer belong to your country because everything is lost during the war. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So coming here is a long process, it's a journey, and through it, me and my family have learned and we've grown, and it has helped us in a way.
Mm. When did you come?
We got here in September 2013. Okay.
Yeah. What's your educational background? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, being a refugee, you have very limited resources to study. So I got lucky. I got a scholarship from the Duffy organization. That's a German embassy in Botswana where I used to be. And at first I enrolled to study law, but then growing up as a refugee and in that kind of a community, I later on realized, no, this is not what I want to do. So I ended up changing, and then I ended up studying human and social development. So during the whole process of waiting to come here, I pursued a degree in human and social development. Yep. And now, hopefully, if all goes well, I've applied for a master's program in organization and community leadership at MSU, so I'm hoping to get in. And with that master's program, I hope to be able to give back, because growing up as a refugee, I understand and I can relate to what it feels like not to be in your country, to what I understand the needs of like all the refugees all over the world, and there's a large number of refugees growing up, so I want to be able to give back, because there's so many people that have helped me to be who I am and turn out to be the person I am. I'd like to give back in the same way, and I believe through my master's program I can be able to do that.
What's it like being a Muslim refugee right now in the U.S., and what do you think people need to know, both about refugees but also about Islam?
God,
now's your chance.
That's an interesting question. Honestly, at the moment, it's just been scary, and at times I felt angry about the whole process. But then again, there's nothing I can do to change it, you know. The only thing is, what I can say is people have a lot of misconceptions and a lot of, like, the media portrays things in a certain way. So people see Islam to be this religion of hate and crime and terrorism and stuff like that. But I feel differently, and I get hurt when I see people talking about it in that way, because I believe Islam is a religion of peace. You know, Islam calls for peace in every essence, in every aspect of life. So now when you're living in a community whereby people look at you and yell at you and call you names because of your religion, it's just scary. And there's a time I thought of going back to Africa, because I was like, I left my country and here I am hoping to get that peace, to belong, you know, to like have a fresh start, but then here it is starting all over. So at the end of the day, you're living just for the moment, but you're not happy because you're scared and you're angry and you don't know how to express all this, you know. But
what do you miss most about home? Well, we'll start there.
What I miss most about home is the essence of community. So back home, everybody knows everybody, and we're just like, even if you're not related, but we're just like families. You know your neighbors, you can go to your neighbors and talk. And that is what I miss, because sometimes you can be depressed in your own house, and then you just go to the neighbors, you talk, and you come back, you're okay. While here, everybody's so busy, and to see somebody, you need to make an appointment. So I miss that. I miss that about being back home, and I miss the food, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
What do you like about living here?
What do I like about living here? Well, to be honest, living here has opened my mind to a lot of things, and you have a lot of opportunities being here, you know. Like my brother always says, you have a chance to do whatever you've always wanted to do that you could not be able to do as a refugee, because as a refugee you are limited. There's so little that you can do. But then being here, you have the freedom to reach your full capacities. You have the freedom to be like, I want to achieve this and I want to do this. That is what I love about being here.
Who or what has made you feel most welcome here in the last few years? And also alongside of that, how can our community do a good job welcoming newcomers?
Well, without any doubt, I'll have to say Dana has been the most welcoming person to me. No, like seriously, since the first day I got here, she's been so nice and so welcoming. And I say that because she looked at me with an open mind. She didn't just look at me like, oh, here's this refugee, and showed pity towards me. But we've always had that communication whereby she understands, like, even if you're a refugee, we all have different backgrounds, and people are different. So she didn't treat me with pity or anything. She just understood me, and we communicated. And she's been nice to me since then. And even when, to be honest, and I haven't had a chance to like work with a lot of local people, because mostly I work with the refugee families. So I haven't like been friends with any of the local people, but Dana has been one of the people. So even when I go to work and there's people that are like mean and they're not nice. I always remember, there's people like Dana, so there's more out there, you know. So I always have to tell myself, there's more out there. It can't be that bad. So yeah.
We clearly did not rehearse this question.
No, we didn't.
I was not expecting that answer. But
yeah, you're welcome. No, like I've been in different occasions whereby people look at you like, just because you're a refugee, they think you're weird. Or just because you're a refugee, they make so many assumptions about you. People don't give you a chance, you know. And most of the time, even when they do, they're just showing pity on you. Like, as a refugee, yes, we've been through circumstances whereby we're looking to be accepted and everything, but the last thing we're looking for right now is for people to show pity on you. We want to feel accepted, we want to belong, and we want people to look at us in an open mind and believe like each person is special in their own way and they can offer this. So when you meet a person that understands and looks at refugee with an open mind, that's a really cool thing. Yeah.
How do you plan to stay positive during this very odd political time we find ourselves in that doesn't seem to be ending anytime soon?
That's an interesting one. I've thought of going back, but that's not an option for me because I don't belong to my country. So right now the only thing is just to stick with positive people and try to keep a positive mind, and also try and like make people understand that being a refugee is not by choice. Just the little people I have access to, try and make them understand that. Hopefully if they can be able to understand, they'll be more accepting and more welcoming and probably be even more nice, and just stop like generalizing or thinking and believing everything that the media portrays about refugees, about Muslim, and about everything else. That's my plan for now.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with this crowd while we have an audience?
God. The only thing I'd like to share is being a refugee is not a choice, and nobody wants to leave their home country to go and live in another country. Nobody wants to start all over. Nobody wants to part with their families. Nobody wants that. If we had a choice, we would be home. And sometimes I look back and feel like, if I was home, maybe I would have been this far. Maybe I would have achieved this. So honestly, being a refugee or asking to be a refugee in another country, it's already hard on the refugees themselves because it's not something that they look forward to. So the only thing I can say is it's not easy being a refugee. However, being in a community like Grand Rapids, I hope that people can be more accepting and more welcoming and learn to treat people in an open mind. And believe that each person, despite wherever they're from or their backgrounds, has something special, something unique that they can offer. That's all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.